All right, here's a quick talking point. McAllister added this one, so shout out to our editor, McAllister. He wants to talk about how Wi-Fi impacts live streaming and people having issues with Wi-Fi, inconsistencies, potential problems, and things like that. So, I mean, it's a pretty simple answer to that. If you're going to be live streaming, honestly, don't go with Wi-Fi unless you're like right next to the router. But even then, like the inconsistency of Wi-Fi, and this goes beyond live streaming too, it's really hard to get a good, consistent Wi-Fi signal to not have some sort of interruption while you're gaming.
Yeah, the problem with Wi-Fi is it's just not a direct connection. It's kind of similar. It's not the same now, but back in the day, they used to not recommend using wireless mice for gaming because there's always a latency. Nowadays, there's almost no latency and it's fine. But with Wi-Fi, it's really still there. You're always going to have a higher ping. You're going to have more latency. There's more delay time. And on top of that, I've never seen anybody have a faster Wi-Fi connection than they do Ethernet.
No, it never really is. I mean, especially if you have the option to do it, running the Ethernet cord, you're just going to have much more stability. I know I was using Wi-Fi for the longest time.
I was as well,
and
yeah.
it always had issues here and there where it would disconnect.
And I never understood. When I was younger, like, it just didn't really, like, I thought Wi-Fi was, like, the exact same. And I think most people have that mindset. Most people are like, oh, it's Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi. Like, who cares? It's internet. But a lot of people don't even understand computers like don't come with Wi-Fi a lot of times nowadays because they're so used to those pre-builts. But if anyone here who didn't know that, most game PCs do not come with Wi-Fi. Almost no motherboards come with Wi-Fi unless you buy a really high-end one that has Wi-Fi in the name, because they advertise the hell out of that. You're not going to have Wi-Fi built into the board.
Yeah, so long story short, if you're live streaming, invest in Ethernet. It's definitely worth it, especially if you want to do it seriously. If you're just someone who's casually streaming for the fun of it and you're okay with your stream going down every so often, then, I mean, sure. But just know your averages are going to be impacted a little bit.
And I guess also, if you have, like, a really good router and you have really good internet and you're not far away from it, that's another thing is, like, you'd probably be fine with Wi-Fi, but you could still do better if you weren't using Wi-Fi.
I agree.
You could be better, but you just choose not to.
I agree. All right, so are we using NVMe drive on this, I assume?
Yes, it's a 1 terabyte, I believe, or a 2 terabyte, something like that.
So
real big lag.
And then I have a 2 8-pins. That should be good, right, for the 2070 Super.
Oh yeah.
Because it's simming module, I'm just making sure I plug in enough.
Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna go ahead and plug in the extra, like, SATA and Molex connectors, and just leave the. Apparently, there's another GPU connector, which seems kind of extra, but it is what it is. Oh yeah. So there's an extra cable there. Let's see. My Ethernet is like 900 megabits per second down and 10 up. It's terrible. Yeah, I mean, that's not the worst I've ever heard, but
Did you say 900 down?
90.
You said
If
900.
I said
That was-
I think
terrible?
I said 900.
I
But
was
yes,
so confused.
yes,
I was
90.
Like, you're on butt.
Yes, 90. Yes, that's not the greatest in the world, but I know people who have a lot worse.
I'll have to do a speed test when I get home to see what our Wi-Fi actually gets. But I know, so I have gigabit down and gigabit up. I don't ever actually see that, but I know that for like on my computer, I think at times I can get about 800 up when I do the speed test, and about I don't know, like about like 600 to 800 down. But then on my phone, I feel like when I have speed test or my laptop, I think it's more like in the 200 range for both. So it's a pretty major difference.